Hey everyone, Yukine here. In this video we're going to be going over the Liberto advent, Chess Grandmaster. This is definitely one of my favorite advents, 3-star advents. The mechanics are very nice. They're a lot of fun. The main thing you're going to be really worried about here is Looming Death and Anti-Revive. Rue is going to be one of your best characters in here. Since she'll cleanse that off. Also, she can remove the shields with her passive. This one? Yeah. Removes damage immunity and shields from all enemies at the start of her turn. Restores HP of the caster and ally with lowest health by 20% when caster tries to remove enemy buffs. So she'll be good in here for healing. Karen is another option. Deimos is a decent option, not the best. But mainly Rue and Karen are really good in here for removing the Looming Death and the debuffs. Abel could be a decent option with his third providing 2 turns abnormal status immunity to everyone. We're going to be running with Aristo for the double damage bonus. We aren't going to be running any tanks in here. You don't really need tanks until 4-star advents, primarily. So we'll probably run something like this with you can get like a weak tile friend helper, even, or a tile friend helper. Let's go with one that's maybe a little bit stronger. Yeah, that should be more than enough damage. You can run just about anything. AoE units are really good in here. Like Kane, Mary. Mary's actually really good in here because you're killing a lot of minions, which procs her passive. Restores the caster's HP by 10% each time an enemy or ally dies. She also gets a stacking attack buff for 50% attack increase. So we'll be running this. So if you don't have a tile, you could run with the tile helper. A lot of people have tile nowadays. He's a 4-star advent that's not very difficult to farm. So the first thing to watch out for, these pawns. They spawn with 3 stacks of this self-destruct buff. Kind of as they take turns, they decrease that. When that drops down to 0, their next turn that they take, they will explode and deal about 6,000 to 7,000 damage to your entire team. So you want to kill them before that happens. You'll be fighting them a lot throughout this advent. So the Queen, the next major unit you're going to be fighting, the Queen and Knights. She does not take damage until you get a buff. And you get the buff by killing these Knights. So once you've killed them, it will put a buff on one of your random team members. It is a bit RNG as to which one. If it ends up going on your healer, it can be very unfortunate. This time it went on to Tayo, which was fortunate. Greatly increases attack and makes it possible to attack the Queen. So with that, we'll actually be doing a decent amount of damage. The Queen spawns with the Gracious Queen buff, which again, every time she takes a turn, she's going to be spawning a Knight, and that buff will drop. Once it drops to 0, she enrages. You don't want to be taking hits when she's enraged. There we killed her a little too fast. But when she's enraged, every player or hero she attacks will take a debuff. The Looming Death debuff, which at the end of their first turn, they take half their current health and damage. And then at the end of their second turn, they just die. Here we have Liberto. First thing he does, he applies a crit chance decrease debuff to your entire team for 10 turns. This can be cleansed by Karen, Karen her third, or Rue's second. Liberto himself has a resolve passive, so when you kill him, he'll stay at 1 health until you attack him again. Also, he has a chance to provide a immunity shield to allies that drop below 50% health. Preferably you want to drop him from above 50% to dead so he doesn't do this. But as long as you have Rue, that shouldn't be too much of a problem, as she can actually remove that at the start of her turn and will in fact heal your team because of it. Here we still have a buff on Kane, so we're going to actually use his third skill on Liberto just to do a good bit of damage. Same thing with Aristo, just do a little bit of extra damage, get him to this next phase faster. You want to be killing the pawns as you do this. And again, at 3 stacks it's not that bad, but once you drop them down even further, or once their turns get even further closer, throughout the fight Liberto will be applying taunts to your entire team. So this is where you want these units that have AoE, so you can actually still attack the pawns and the knights and the queen that he can spawn even though you're taunted. So like for here, we'll be using Mary's third skill to just attack the entire enemy team. And then we can just AoE with Tayo to kill that knight. That'll put a attack buff on Rue, which is not the best unit to put that on. Once he drops to 50%, he'll start spawning queens. So here we want to clean out as many of the pawns as possible. So at this point, yeah, once you drop him below 250,000, he starts talking to let you know you're going to be going into the next phase. He spawns a queen, does a small amount of damage to your team, and at this point you absolutely need minions, these minions to be gone, because again, if there's no minion slots open, or if there's no spaces open, when the queen takes her turn, she won't be able to spawn a knight, which you need to kill to get the buff to actually do damage to her. So here, you need to kill the knight, get that damage buff on someone. I was on Kane. And throughout this, Mary's mainly going to be focusing on clearing out the minions. Tayo, we can just get that damage reduction, get Liberto down lower. Fortunately, Kane was taunted here. Here, the queen, we can see she's enraged. So there, she applied the Looming Death mechanic that I mentioned before. She applies the Revive Unavailable debuff. So if that character dies, I just won't be able to revive them for the rest of the round, or for the rest of the fight. So we want to kill another knight here to see if we can get more buffs out. We went on Rue, unfortunately, but Liberto's low enough at this point we can just finish him off. One strategy is if you have all knights up, though I think after a certain amount of turns they start applying debuffs to you that make you take more damage. But yeah, that's generally the strategy. You want units that can do either some AoE. Again, if you have like strong helpers, Christian, something like that, you could run that and just with a helper. You just brute force it. So like for instance, I can run something like this and just brute force it. But this video is just to show that with the weaker teams, what your strategy generally is going to be. Again here, the pawns with the 3 turns buff. Rue's really nice in here because those are buffs. Even though they cannot be removed, her first skill has a chance to try and remove them, so she can heal from that. Same thing against the queen. She has that buff, and then also the enrage buff once that drops, where you can get heal procs off of that. The knights don't have a buff, so Rue actually can't heal off of them. Christian has the buff here, so just attack the queen. I'm actually waiting. Like if you manage to get the queen really low, you can wait and let her spawn some more knights. That way you can get more buffs. And you try and kill them all at around the same time. You can get more buffs starting into the fight for Liberto, so then you can just go for that extra damage as soon as possible. So like Christian is going to have that, so we'll just use his 3rd skill on Liberto, drop him almost to his enrage point. We got almost, I was going to say we have a bunch of pawns with 3 up, and now we can just nuke him down. Generally you want to slowly DPS him down, maybe get a knight buff on one of your strong attackers, and then just kind of nuke him below the 250,000. That way you're going to have to deal less with his enrage phase where he spawns the queens. Yeah, that's how you clear the Chess Grandmaster Liberto Advent Dungeon. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, I stream on Twitch throughout the weeks, generally starting around 7 p.m. EST. I'll be posting the link to my Twitch channel in the description of the video. Thank you.